Hello, hello. Welcome back to Diary of a Psychic Medium with me, Amber Amrine. Today, architect Alexander Josephson joins us to discuss how travel, art, and technology intertwine to shape our understanding of memory, space, and mortality. Here we go. Alrighty, jumping right on in. Alexander Josephson is a Toronto-based architect, designer, and entrepreneur. He is the co-founder and president of the award-winning architecture studio Partisans, known for experimental projects that fuse design, technology, and culture. He is also the founder of Cumulus, a digital memorial platform exploring how architecture, technology, and ritual can help people preserve memories, honor loved ones, and build meaningful legacies. Cumulus was born after Alex nearly lost his father to COVID-19. During 9 months of hospitalization, Alex realized how little his family had preserved: photos, videos, and meaningful records of a life. This is where Cumulus was born. He envisioned it as a digital architecture for honoring loved ones in a way that mirrors how memory actually works. In a culture that avoids death, Cumulus was founded to help people preserve lives, prepare for loss, and create lasting legacies before it's too late. Here's Alexander. Alrighty, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
It's really nice to be here, Amber. Thanks for inviting me. Well, my name is Alex Josephson, and I'm reaching you from the Great White North, the 51st state, Canada. And I was born in Toronto. My family's lived here for a really long time. It's been our home for the last 200 years. I think about this a lot these days with the way the world's going, just how my ancestors got here. But we've been here for a while and endured all the winters somehow. And, I think that makes me very fortunate, right? Like, from Canada, from Toronto, downtown. But I did everything I could after high school to stay as far away as possible, or even leave Canada permanently. And I ended up in Paris, London, New York, Rome, Los Angeles, and then Rome for 5 years, and New York for the last year for a fellowship. And that was 2002 to 2010, basically.
Oh, wow.
And then I ended up coming back to Toronto and starting a firm, an architecture firm, actually. Yeah, it was like a good 8 years of seeing the world and then coming home, and that was in the wake of the financial crisis, but there was a building boom in Canada, so I followed that. But yeah, life. God, it's a terrible summary of my life, but but I think that it paints a picture of at least where I'm from, what I do. I'm an architect. I run Partisans, the architecture firm in Toronto, but I also have another company I started called Cumulus, which is really near and dear to my heart. But I think if you really look at architecture, also it makes sense that I started Cumulus, which is about trying to make sure that our memories live on and that we can connect with our ancestors in a more touching way.
What do you feel you ultimately got out of your travels? How did it change the way you think or the way you relate to people? Or did it?
Gosh, yeah. It's funny, like, I grew up in such a conservative atmosphere. I'm not, where did you said you grew up in California,
Los
right?
Angeles, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, when I lived in Los Angeles, I was just like, wow, such a different way of life there. And I remember I got my first job in Los Angeles and my first paycheck and bought my first watch, used to go to lunch on my own. It was just like a coming of, it was just coming into my own in Los Angeles, and it's such a different place. Like I rented a room in a frat house one summer, and it was they got broken into and they stole all my stuff.
Oh no. Oh man. Welcome to LA.
Well, welcome to Toronto. It's lawless here too. Believe me, we're kindred
Oh
spirits that way.
man.
But I think these places just they endure. I remember the chicken and rice teriyaki that I would get at lunch. Like I had these memories of just doing things and also just meeting people and being alone for the first time. Being really alone, because being at university near your hometown, that's not really being alone. You're still a drive away from your support system. But when you go away, it's just you. And I had that in Los Angeles, and then I really had that in Rome. And I remember when I got a job there, I it was a lark. I didn't really feel like I belonged in Toronto. And the place I was working, there was a wonderful man there who said, "You should go to Italy and you should apply to this firm." And I just put together a portfolio on a lark, and they gave me a job. And they even paid me 500 euros a month, which in architecture, that was a lot. There was at least something. And but I remember after getting into that studio, which was this world-renowned studio in this palazzo in central Rome near Campo de Fiori, beautiful place. Have you been to Campo de Fiori?
I've not.
It's this beautiful piazza that just epitomizes everything about Italy and Rome. It's a food market in the morning, and then it's fun and games and aperitivo and socializing in the evening, and it's this just bustling, amazing place with restaurants and bakeries, and it's in the old part. It's in the center of old Rome, and I remember that second week of working there, I cried because I felt so alone and I couldn't speak the language. It just felt so bad. I felt so uncultured and
Mm,
unsophisticated and unexposed compared to Europeans and the people who are working around me. It felt embarrassing.
mm,
Um, and I felt a deep sense of responsibility to try and understand them and their language. And it was an eye opening experience, but it was so beautiful. Like, obviously, that's like, I don't think that's a negative thing. It shined a light on how um, removed we can be, uh, but comfortable at the same time. And it changed the way that I look at my surroundings, and it changed the way I think about aesthetics, especially. Rome is so beautiful. Um, and it made me look at cities differently. And it made me think about how we live and the differences in the quality of life, the food, um, just so many things. It actually changed. My life was flipped upside down living there. I can imagine the same thing would happen if I lived in Tokyo or
mm,
any of those great cities. Um, New York didn't flip me upside down as much as Rome.
mm.
New York I could kind of deal with.
Yeah. I feel like growing up in LA, it it can have such a small town feel sometimes because when you're raised there, your family is very ingrained in the community. So it's like everybody knows each other. There's a bunch of other people kind of coming in and out, but the main network is there. And you can get everything you need there, which is why I never felt inclined to leave. And when we left last year, that was the first time I had lived away from LA. And I kind of had that bit of isolation. I don't know anybody on the East Coast. It's all the way over here, it's far away. We had first gone to Boston, and then we went to New York. We've been in Jersey. We've just been kind of exploring around. The architecture in Boston, I loved, especially in comparison to LA, because LA is a much newer state, I guess, in comparison to the East Coast. And it's so interesting to me having a mix of these buildings that were like built in the 1600s, and you can just kind of see the shift in how things became a lot more grandiose, and it's just such a beautiful place. I feel like Boston is really beautiful. I don't feel as inspired, I guess, by New York. I get more inspired by the people in New York and just how dedicated people are to what they want, that's very exciting. And I feel like it's a bit more saturated than in LA is a lot more relaxed. But it has been a little strange kind of dealing with my own sense of isolation in a way. Luckily, my work is online, so I still feel connected to some sort of community. And I mean, I speak the language, so I imagine it's not as bad as like going to somewhere else, but it is definitely an interesting process and really forces you to question things and look at yourself a lot deeper and all the things.
New York also has a language. It's a language of ambition.
Hmm.
It's a language. I was there 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, a month ago, with a client. We won a project to design a deep listening and music institution, a cultural center in Puerto Rico, actually. And the client is this. Ironically, you mentioned Boston. He's actually originally from Sacramento and then made his way to Boston for school and
Oh, interesting.
made a fortune. And now he's building this institution. And we were in New York together, going to listening rooms about a month ago. And what I was reminded of in that extraordinary 70, I guess it was 48 hours in New York, and what I was reminded of is just how ambitious everybody is there. And if you meet the right people there, they can be really extraordinary and kind and generous in how they share that ambition with you. And I had that experience. I think a lot of the time when I say like ambition, there's this competitiveness in New York, of course, as well, and like avarice. But I think that like what you can have in New York are these extraordinary experiences with people who are redefining categories by themselves.
Hmm.
And the quality of that pursuit, whether it's bread or stereos or stock trading, there's an amazing conversation to be had and an experience to be had with those people, and you can't get that anywhere else in the world. So
Yeah.
that's intimidating too, in a certain sense. It's different than, say, not speaking Italian, but you do have to speak that language of ambition. I feel like in New York, if you're not really striving for something that you don't, it almost is like, well, what are you doing here? Like it's sort of a funny, but it reminded me of how I had these amazing. I've been in Toronto building a family. I've got a beautiful wife and a 6 months old daughter and a 2 year old daughter, and they're just like these amazing lights in my life. And I've been spending a lot of time here and not traveling a lot. And when I have traveled in the last year, I've just been so aware of how I've just absorbed things differently than when I was living in those places passively.
Mm.
And I got a lot more out of it, interestingly enough. Maybe I have to thank being a dad for that. I don't know. Not being a kind of like single guy roaming around these cities looking for a date.
Sure.
Uh,
What is your artistic process from general idea conception to physical experience? I guess, how do you think of ideas?
yeah. So I think it's important I studied architecture for 11 years. It's a long time, right? Like, and then I taught it at the University of Toronto. And what I learned about architecture is, on the one hand, the design training in architecture schools is really almost similar to fashion. People are sort of studying, and the outcome is there'll be these stylists, 10, 20, 100, that dominate the global industry. And but there's this sea of other people who are also talented. And um, so how do you design in that context? How do you create an identity? How do you achieve creative freedom where there's just so little opportunity for it in the end, right? Like architecture is a big money game. It's a lot of zeros to get a building built or a bridge or an airport. And um, so the question is, how do you find purpose? And I didn't call the studio Alex Josephson Inc. I called it Partisans because I was very interested in the political dimensions of architecture and really fighting for a cause and extracting the most I could for not just my clients, but myself and my team from a design perspective. And so I think the first principle is just identifying the opportunities and not assuming that there isn't one. And that's a subtle thing, but it's like allowing even the most mundane instance or ask to become special. Our first project was a sauna on a lake in the middle of something 2-3 hours north of Toronto. And in a normal circumstance, you just build a box. It's on an island. Don't get too picky. Make it clean and modernist. Straight lines. We built this extraordinary structure called the grotto, and it was about falling in love with the shape of rock that was shaped like by the glaciers over billions, hundreds of thousands of years into these pillows. And instead of just saying, okay, I'm going to put a box and they're going to have a heater in there and a cedar, done, clean, we turned it into a romance. We allowed it to become something much more. We fought for the place. We fought for ideas. We fought for a conceptual outcome that could be felt and transcend and take the people and the visitors somewhere else. And we won. And I think that is how you start. Identify the cause, the why, not the outcome. The outcome needs to be a surprise. I believe it needs to be a bit of a surprise, and it needs the process to get there might feel very awkward and unfamiliar. But I think that risk is really important in our work. Others, it's not. When you're selling a commodified product, you can't take those risks. And I haven't set up a company or an ethos in life about commodification. So I take that's I guess the way we work. And then obviously drawing and sculpting, it's a very physical process. And imbuing the architecture with that physical process and those ideas and those sentiments is really important. The technology is too. And inevitably, the technology is what helps these radical ideas come to life, because you need to be able to build efficiently, especially complex things. So if you have a really good sense of technology, it's the equivalent of knowing how to draw with a pencil well 100 or 200 years ago. You need to know AI. You need to know computational design. You need to know these things, but let's not let the tail wag the dog, right?
Mm-hmm. Do you experience synesthesia? Like when you're looking at something visually, do you feel something in your body? Is it a very embodied process?
It's interesting. I was just watching this Drops of God show, which is about wine. And I like wine, but I can't relate to those synesthetic experiences they're having. That being said, I'm not sure I would describe what I'm feeling the way they would either. But I know one thing. I know that I sense space and I can perceive it, describe it, and invent space in my mind in a way that 99% of people cannot. And I've started to understand that is something special. And I get the confirmation of that. It's different than wine. Architecture takes time, but you see that clients can't read drawings. You see that they're not seeing what I'm seeing. I can create drawings, I can create models, I can create all these things. But what I know is so true and real, what it feels like, what it looks like, what it sounds like, they are not feeling. All they see are these derived artifacts. But what I've started to understand is there's a huge gulf between me and the perceiver of what we're doing, just from an experiential perspective, and that's okay. I think that's fine. What it smells like, I don't know. I can't describe it like that. But what I do know is I know what it's like to be somewhere in my mind and invent that somewhere and bring it into the world. And I know that the people I work with, they don't. I've learned over the years that there is a just a difference in the way I'm perceiving what I'm doing and feeling. And I'm not saying it space seems like a tastes like plum, you know what I mean, or like roasted cherries or something. I'm just saying that there's something primal about my experience of space in my mind and how I can express it and feel it versus the people around me. And I'm aware of that difference now.
Do uh, do ideas come through like fully formed? Like, do you just get a download of something, or is it just like a little hint of something that then just unravels over time?
No, it's like a journey, and it feels so daunting. Like you're looking up at a mountain and you don't even know how to get to the top, and maybe the top isn't the destination. Maybe the destination is this extraordinary outcropping that you have a better view of everything. Um, but you have to start climbing, and it's an energetic process. Um, I can't really say that anything has been this immaculately conceived moment of artistic inspiration that a lot of people describe. It's so much more difficult than that. I really wish it was that easy. Um, what I think people do is you do this, you take this journey, you start trying to understand the project, the information, the due diligence, the data, the people, the smells, the spaces, the places, the flight going there. Option one, option two, first try, second try, third try, and then I think what people are describing when they say they had this amazing moment of inspiration, like, well, maybe it happened because you did all this other stuff first and you struggled through it and
Sure.
it hit you. Like, and to me, sometimes I feel like the work is almost like the night before the exam when it just, like, you've worked so hard and you study and suddenly you have this insight and it's like you're scrambling to get it all together. But that pressure is really important in the creative process, not just having to solve important problems that clients have, and and I should also say we don't just work for clients, we work for ourselves. Like, if we have an idea for something, we pursue it, we render it, we draw it, we sculpt it. We don't wait for someone to say, hey, build this for me. That happens, obviously, but we have our own ideas, and I think that you have to give yourself the dignity of that option and that opportunity. And for example, dealing with mortality and dealing with loss and dealing with the fear of losing my dad or my mom, my dad in particular at that time, um, really inspired me to start Cumulus, which, many people would say you have no business starting a technology company. You have degrees in architecture. You're not an entrepreneur. You're not an entrepreneur. I'm like, well, you mean I am an entrepreneur? I've started a company. I've got 22 employees. We build extraordinary things that we bring them into the world. They didn't exist before. We make them up. This is entrepreneurial. So I didn't let the naysayers say I shouldn't pursue that. And yeah, like I think that's also kind of like an inspiration, right? Like, you struggle and you got a business, but you have an idea for something else, and you just go for it. And it didn't necessarily come to me in the night. It just felt right. And I think as a result of all the other things I was doing and people around me, my dad being on chemo and almost dying of COVID, and like just all these things, many things happening, and and experiencing those things, bringing me to say, I want to solve for this problem in my family. My uncle sending me articles about himself in his cute, narcissistic way to save for him, like, 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 I wanted to solve for that. And why not? Why not?
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's more romantic, actually, the struggle and what I'm describing than this stroke of, this light bulb that goes off or lightning that people say strikes. I think they
Yeah.
want to make things, I think people either have invented the idea of making things should look easy or be out or should be diminished in their difficulty. Uh, it's like, no, things are really hard.
I feel that so much when I choreograph for a show or something like that. I love dance. And if I improvise, obviously there's flow there because there's like, I'm just playing, we're just playing. But when I'm choreographing for something, it feels very similar to how you're describing, where it's like, okay, there's this big thing. I've got 3 minutes that I need to fill, and I'm not sure how that's going to look. I don't know where we're going. And you just kind of chomp at it piece by piece. And the one thing that I love about dance is its movement. It's like the spirituality of the body in the present moment. And
Yeah.
as you are choreographing, it's sort of like how you're feeling that day, the environment that you're choreographing in, the music that's playing. Because sometimes if I choreograph to a song, I need to listen to other music to keep that inspiration going. But it all sort of influences where the thing goes. I don't always choreograph a song in order. Like I'll jump to the end and then the beginning and then the middle. And I feel like it encapsulates this full story of evolution and exploration. It's almost like a diary of all the places you've been, all the things you felt. And I feel like a big part of that is the frustration because it forces you to think in new ways.
Um, it's interesting you bring up dance. I went to the ballet the other day, and it was a very classic, sort of like I think it was blanc en blanc or something like this. It was like a very Balanchine style ballet on the first half of this show, and then there was it wasn't Alexander Ekman. It was Crystal Pipe. So the first half was this extraordinarily traditional ballet, and the second half was this Crystal Pipe piece. And the ballet, the traditional ballet, I have a very hard time relating to it, or I have a very hard time getting into it.
Sure.
But then the Crystal Pipe piece with this like 40 people working in unison together, almost like they were breathing with the same lung. That I really understood. That I really could understand, be profoundly impacted by how dark it seemed, this piece that was put together. But on the other hand, my wife was like, God, that was hideous. That's not dance. That's not dance. That's not dance. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I was like, you're really reacting viscerally to this. And why I and and I was like, that's interesting. Because I I I didn't have the same visceral reaction to the Balanchine classic. She liked the Balanchine classic. I think that that. But what I found fascinating was I was sort of like, I could appreciate the Balanchine. I could appreciate that the rigor and the formality of the ballet. But she was viscerally, she was like, that's not dance. And I'm like, that's dance. That's actually, in my opinion, maybe harder. You've got to make 40 people do these things in perfect unison. Like it's not a couple people dancing. This is 40 people as one body. It's different. And just, like, it was fascinating to have this discussion. But I said, you know what? Like, I liked that more than the other. But you were having a physical, visceral reaction to this. fantastic. You really
Yeah.
don't like this. I was like, that's so amazing. I was like, that's so amazing. You let's hold on to that because like if you can have a visceral reaction to something, that's because we I feel like we all go around and we're not supposed to react. We're not supposed to have visceral responses to things. We're all supposed to be under control. And I like that. I like the idea of having self control all the time, or not getting emotionally um, deregulated. But like she was upset about it, and I was like, "This is amazing. You're never upset. This upset you."
I don't remember when and I don't remember who, but there was a famous ballet dancer who was doing a solo performance. So everyone came, it was like a sold out show, and all he did was sat and stared at everyone for like a minute and a half, and then that was it. And people were pissed. And it's like, that's the point, it's art. Because
Well,
it triggered
you
something
can
in you.
also say you saw him do that. You were
Mm-hmm.
there. He never did it again. But I'm sure he'll be back to do his other thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you can have that commodified experience. But no one will ever experience that thing over there again. It was a
Yeah.
surprise. What's more important? I think the surprise is more important. It was like John Cage when he did, what was it? What was that piece called? 412 or something like this. 4 minutes of silence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the most important piece he wrote in the end. Silence
Mm-hmm.
of an orchestra.
Yeah, I love that stuff. I
Yeah.
love especially the stuff that makes people uncomfortable because it's triggering something, and it's always curious as to like what that is. Are you getting triggered because your expectations were? I don't know. It's just there's such a range of emotions, and it's I feel like almost portrays how a person feels in the world in a way. It's like a little glimmer of their deeper processing. Because if somebody sits there and it's silence and they're excited about it, or they take it as a meditative thing, it's like, okay, there's like a hint of spontaneity where they could go with the flow. But for other people, if their expectation isn't met, it can be very triggering. I don't know. I just feel it's very interesting in reflecting more on who we are and how we move about things more than anything else.
Yeah. Expectations are they're something that I have trouble with as well. Regulating expectation.
Mm-hmm. Which I feel like is normal. Humans, we crave we crave structure and stability most of all.
Interesting. Yeah.
I want to hit on something that you had mentioned in terms of going more into like entrepreneurial stuff. I feel like so frequently we tend to, I notice this mostly with like plumbing, construction. There's so much that we can do, like changing oil on the car really is not that difficult. Putting in new flooring may be laborious, but it's really not that difficult, depending on what it is you're looking to do. But I feel like so frequently we tell ourselves that we cannot. This is not my thing. I can't learn it. It's too hard. And I went through this period of a few years where I started to really explore stuff. Like if there's a bad clog in the pipe, instead of calling a plumber, this seems like a fairly easy job. What requires opening it up? Or I had like taken down the bathroom and completely rebuilt it, like re-put in the walls and everything. And there's so much empowerment, I feel like, that comes from that. But our brains just tend to box us in when a lot of times things aren't as difficult as we make them out to be, or they can be difficult, but I feel like the skill level isn't always so high. And there's something really important, I feel, about stepping out of our box a bit and trying new things or applying information and lessons we've learned elsewhere into new directions because it makes something special.
So did you finish your bathroom?
I did. And it was so fun. I had painted like the walls with chalk paint so you could doodle on the walls. It was so
And
much fun.
you did all the plumbing as well?
No, the plumbing was already there.
Oh, okay,
Just
okay.
the
So
flooring and the
you
walls.
redid some stuff. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
just redid it a bit. Took the carpet out of the main home, put in like laminate flooring. What else was done? Just like painting or like putting in shelves, put some rock climbing holds on the walls because it had a high ceiling. Just fun stuff. It was like a little adult playground. It was great.
Yeah, like the sense of satisfaction of that is, I mean, we're sort of we're sort of meant to just sort of drone around all day long doing the same thing, and developing an efficiency of doing that same thing over and over and over again is dehumanizing. You
Mm-hmm.
know who wrote about this a lot? Heidegger. You know, the industrial revolution, and like turning the human being into this sort of like efficient producer of something over and over and over again. Um, and It's not that we can't do the plumbing. It's not that we can't do the electrical work. In certain circumstances, there's some pretty real dangers involved
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
standards around
There
how
is
it's
a
supposed to be done.
threshold. Yes.
so, so, but they're not unlearnable.
Mm.
You know, like they're really not unlearnable. And this analogy of building your own bathroom, I think, is a great one. Like when I moved back to Toronto from Rome, I didn't have a place to live. I was living at my parents', and I sort of um, I sort of inherited this attic space in a above a store in downtown Toronto, in an old building that my cousins, you know, they everybody had taken a stab at this attic space, and like I think my cousin gave up at drywall, and there was like 10 sheets of drywall sitting on this attic. And I moved back to Toronto, and I was like, well, I'm an architect and I'm handy. I'm going to do it. And I demolitioned the whole place. I uh, I redid. The only thing that I got done by a professional was the electrical, which some of it I also did, but the service for the electrical, which is very dangerous,
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I installed my own toilet. I installed my own shower. I installed like I I did my own floor. I installed a window, storm window. I ordered windows from Home Depot and I installed them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I put shelves up. I I built my own kitchen. It was made out of IKEA, but no one could tell because it was this. It was actually just a 600 square foot loft, open space in an old brick building with a store underneath it. And I took out all the walls, uh, probably to the detriment of the structure of the building. and and then I just built a shower, washroom, kitchen installation where there was just a wall that was 8 feet tall, but not to the ceiling. It was just this sculpture that was these three things, all open air. So it was kind of voyeur. Like you went to the bathroom, open air. You showered, open air. The kitchen was on the other side of a giant wall that just had a mirror on it and a sculpture hanging on the mirror. Um, it was a bit of like an experiment, but I did
Mm.
it myself. Like and I remember the satisfaction. Obviously, things didn't work perfectly, and that's why you
Yeah.
have professionals. But I did it myself, and it worked for me for the time that I lived there, and that was where I lived, and that was where we started our studio actually, and um, and it gave me a great sense of just. I once, uh, someone once said, you know, I hope the one thing people would say about me was that I was competent. The ultimate compliment would be that you're that to this person was that they were competent, and I was like, wow, that's such a beautiful idea that you were competent. And it was like I felt competent. I was like, I did that myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and and I was there when I needed help. I didn't just hire someone and disappear. I was there and helpful, And I think it set the stage also for how we think about our work, and also why I felt empowered to start a new business endeavor like Cumulus, because I had, it was always just something I did. I made things, whether it was a business or hanging a toilet, I made things. And I had no problem taking the leap, right?
Let's dive into Cumulus. Can you share a little more about what it is?
Yeah, so I like to think of Cumulus as a as the place where our memories go. All the digital that we have goes to live on. You could call it a digital cemetery. Uh, it's to me it meets a giant gap in the world. Our lives are essentially exploded into pixels now. It's it's all on our phones, it's all in our computers, and we don't make family albums anymore. Um, our phones have purportedly been invented to connect us, and on the one hand, we are more connected than we've ever been. In fact, it's very hard to disconnect, but we're all lonelier than we've ever been. And in a way, the physical things that kept us together are no longer there. And so Cumulus to me was a solution to that. And like, I didn't feel like when my father was on chemo and potentially going to die from cancer that he'd asked me to design his grave, like his tombstone, in case he died. And when I was doing that, I just thought, gosh, this is not capturing anything about this man except that he maybe had some interest in aesthetics and his birth and death date and his name. Like I was just like, how do you reduce people to that? Especially, we look back and one of the most fascinating things is you find tombs because it tells you so much about what that person's life would have been like. And we don't have that anymore. And I thought, well, I want to make a tomb. And I know it sounds morbid, but there's only two things that are certain in life: death and taxes. We know this. And and you're not going to avoid either. So, and I just felt like I just felt like in that process of being asked to save all these things by my uncle's emails, like, look at this article from when I was in school in 1965. It's like, well, save this for the family archive. I'm like, what archive? Where is it going to go? Who's going to see it? How are they going to see it? And it was just, I was inspired to build this place. And because I'm an architect, it needed to be a place. It needed to feel like a space. I think part of the resonance of going to a tomb or a cemetery is its space and place, the feeling of it. And no obituary, no scrolling through a Facebook page is ever going to give you that resonant, that kind of like that physical experience. And so I was like, could I create a digital space poetic enough? And that was the ambition behind Cumulus, that it was a place that you could easily send all of your digital memories, whether it's a photo, a video, map a place where you scattered someone's ashes or buried someone, multi-generation burials, everything, writing, send it to there, and then immerse yourself in it in 3D, like a temple of that person or a temple of that family, and let that then pass on. Allow other people in your family or group of friends to be a party to that preservation process, and make it a positive experience, and not allow it to be one where what you see on social media is essentially the destruction of people's emotional health and their lives, and try to create something that people could begin to help the process of grieving, because that was what I was going through when I really invented this. And maybe it was my catharsis, right? It was building it was the way I got over the potential grief of losing my parents.
I will say, when I was exploring it, I was looking at public the little people that had public clouds that you can kind of go and meander through. And it was so intimate feeling. I feel like when you look at memorials on Facebook, for example, it's a lot of pictures. Sometimes there's context, but it just feels very flat, I guess.
Yeah.
And there was something about the Cumulus space where things, it's like a scrapbook of all of these pieces. And because I was looking into, random persons one, I don't know the context, but that kind of made it more special, where it had that experiential aspect that you feel when you go to a tomb or a temple or something to honor the person. It just kind of encapsulates you into this person's world, which was very interesting. And you're looking at pictures and like, I don't know who these people are. They were pets. I don't know the stories there, but it mattered enough for them to put it on there, which kind of brought this sanctity aspect to it. I thought it was very cool. It feels very raw and very vulnerable, but I feel like it really pulls us back into our humanity, which social media doesn't do. It just paints this very idealized picture, whereas this just provides space to kind of honor the human experience, which I thought was really cool.
Thanks. If if I could get everybody to see it and feel that, I think it would be amazing. Like it's just a different way of. I wanted a way to bring our family together, and for our daughters to also share in those histories, because inevitably, how are these things passed along? I don't know. Maybe I'm more obsessed with mortality and the next generation, but I don't know how you can have a child and not think about these things. It's so primal to me. I don't know. Like, I didn't have children at the time, but maybe it was instilled in me by my parents because I think they cared so deeply. I mean, as much as my father was a tough guy and hard to please, like he did everything for us, and he still does, and he survived all that. But I guess it was instilled on me to think about the next generation. But I think that also goes to architecture, like leaving the city a better place. And it's like, could we create a city of memories in the sky, like this digital city? Um, but I think you're right. The way you put it, it's the internet is so flat, and the devices we have flatten everything. Um, and it's been tough. I think that I read an article the other day about Meta and other companies that have invested so highly in VR and immersive stuff, and it's just hard to. I think it's hard to grow it because of a number of different things. But I just don't think that there have been a lot of use cases besides playing games that are out there for people. And I thought, oh well, this is a kind of really great use case for. This is a really great use case for virtual reality. It's a really great use case for immersivity and it's a way for all those hardwares to bring people together and maybe help people.
Absolutely. I feel like it definitely brings the human back into it. Like it pulls us into the here and now using like modern tools, because I feel like so frequently those tools pull us out of the here and now. So I feel like it bridges it nicely. What have you discovered about human memory through this process of translating, I guess, this like spiritual space into a technological version of it?
That we're overwhelmed by the amount that we think we need to save, and that we don't do it because of that. I think that what I've learned about memory is we now have so much to record and so much to save that it's daunting. And I part of what I think the next thing we need to do in Cumulus is help people take the content that they've actually shared the most, or that somehow help with the choices, because it's just overwhelming. Like, you go on your phone, you got 40,000 photos,
Yeah.
and you got to decide which ones to save. I mean, I think about it. It's and I think it's so daunting, and people don't want to look at that mountain in front of them. Like, and I commend my mother. She kept everything. She kept these letters to us. My mother wrote these letters when, in the 80s, when flying was still dangerous. It wasn't as safe as it was today in the 70s and 80s. And my mother wrote this letter in case she died on this plane crash when she went away
Oh, wow.
to London. And she gave me this letter, and I have it on my Cumulus account. And I don't know what's I kind of muse at the idea, in 200 years, if one of my descendants, God willing, this planet is, still hospitable to people. Um, God willing. Well, like, I just think I hope that they get something out of that.
It's very interesting actually, because it's kind of like we hoard digitally. I feel like um, just with the process of evolution, physically there was a need to save whatever you can, tools, food. There was a sense of needing to save because you never knew if you would have access to it the next day. I feel like over time we've gotten through that where it's like, okay, there are sturdy structures in place where we don't have to always be in this like starvation mode, fight or flight mode. But now I feel like we're kind of dealing with that digitally where it's just too much and we don't know what to focus on. If it's all gone tomorrow, I don't know. It just
No,
feels
no, no.
like there's
We're
this
we're
hoarding
told
aspect.
we're told what to focus on. That's something I've become more and more aware of. So, on the one hand, I have an architecture business. On the other hand, I have a desk services business, quote unquote, right? But the algorithm,
Mm.
it's not smart enough to give me both. I have to just be the architect, or I have to just be the technology or the desk services person. I can't be both. The algorithm doesn't allow me. It's awful. Like, I don't think I don't think people, I'm very aware of it. Like, this is one of the things that you asked about memory, and what
Mm-hmm.
I've learned from this whole process is these devices are conditioning our lives
Mm-hmm.
in ways that we have no idea the power. I'm telling you, it's it wants you to stay in your spot. This technology is not about freedom. It's actually about keeping you in your lane, and it's very dangerous. Um, the illusion that they've woven about how these help us. I mean, and again, it goes back to Cumulus. Like, I obviously didn't think Facebook was a dignified forum for something sacred. And what the technology companies have done is taken the sacred away from us.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've flattened our lives, and I think and I'm not a moralist. I'm really not. Like, I am a sinner. You know what I mean? Like, whatever you want. However, the Judeo-Christian, you know, saying goes. But my point is just like, this is not utopia; it's dystopia. And um, I became much more aware of this in the last few months as I launched Cumulus, because I want to see more and more content around memorialization. I want to see more and more content about um, memory. I want to see more and more content about legacy. And the algorithm's broken. It just wants to send me design, or it wants to send me women, or it wants to send me, like, it's just like, really, like, that's dangerous. I think it's dangerous, and I don't know why more people aren't speaking up about it,
Mm,
because I think it's really having an impact on our emotional health and our lives and our behavior.
absolutely. I mean, people, I feel like, have such a hard time just relating to others or holding a conversation. Being a human being, it's like they only feel comfortable within the confines of the online space.
Oh, I feel so uncomfortable in the online space. Like it's I feel so uncomfortable because it forces you to either constantly consume or you have to create your a content creator all the time. Everything is content, and it's hard to do what I do on a daily basis if all you're thinking about is how to create content.
Hmm.
It's a real dilemma, right? But I like to conceive of Cumulus as like the digital equivalent of granite. It's trying with every bit and bite of its anatomy to be everything that the other things online aren't. And
Mm.
maybe it's category defining in a certain way. It's a different way of consuming or interacting with content. Someone actually told me it kind of reminds me of like Black Mirror or a
Mm.
Minority Report, scene from a Minority Report, and great, fantastic. At least it doesn't remind you. At least it doesn't remind you of being on Facebook or on, you know, iPhotos. Like,
Yeah. How, I guess, how would you suggest people push away from the black hole that is our phones?
it's TV. It's replaced the TV, right? Like
Hmm.
I think people were as addicted to TV as they were to their phones. Like I go to my parents' house, it's like Fox News 24/7.
Same with
You know
my
what I mean?
grandparents. I don't watch TV. I don't have a TV, and when I go over there, it's on all the time. It's like, how do you? It
Yeah,
drives me crazy.
yeah. So I don't think it's just a different thing. It's a different addiction, different technology, but same same dependency that we have as human beings on this distraction from being alive, I guess. And there's this idea that if you keep up with the content, you're more alive. I think that's the big lie. You're not more
Mm.
alive. You're not more connected.
Hmm.
Um, or we aren't. But so I guess if we keep it in the memorialization conversation, well, like when my father survived his whole ordeal, I thought, oh, I'm gonna get someone to interview him and my mother and do a video. And I'm not gonna do it. This person's gonna do it, and I'm gonna watch it. And um, so a lot of people have all this content, and they're making this beautiful content, and it's very rich. They take photos of their kids, they take photos of their travels, whatever it is. They take a photo of a recipe for lemon custard pie that no one else has. It could be anything. Um, my dilemma was, where do you put it all so that it can be re-experienced?
Mm.
And it was not Google Drive. It was not. It was, again, it was not Facebook. It was something else that didn't exist, that made sure, and that was built on the idea of perpetuity forever. I mean, can you? When I started Cumulus, I thought I want to build the forever company, and there's all these rules and laws around calling yourself forever. Like it's interesting. Death is regulated. There's regulations. So I wanted to call it that, but the ambition of it truly is like to physicalize that. You're talking about how do you reconnect? Well, physicalize the digital. Create a place and a space where it can resonate again, or be reconsumed by the people you care about the most, and
Mm.
you can communicate over it. But if you do make these things, like whether it's a video or an essay, the format matters. Like there's this degeneracy, the what do they call this, planned obsolescence of all the things we have.
Mm.
And that includes also file types. You know, like there's files you can no longer open anymore, and CDs that you can't read anymore, discs, and it's going to get harder and harder and harder to access that content. And so I thought, is there a way to, is there an open platform that where it's just okay for all these weird file types to exist? And I was, and that was that. I think that's a kind of digital answer to your question, where it's like these will be okay in 50 years as long as the platform's still there.
Mm.
Because the idea is also to build a trust, like an endowment around Cumulus that ensures its perpetuity.
Mm.
So if we get to a critical mass of customers and users, we can then start to build a trust that can ensure that the platform is there forever, just like a cemetery ensures that the lawn
Mm.
is cut forever, as long as financial markets are, able to manage those assets and keep them valuable enough that they can pay the rent and the maintenance. But I think the same concept applies, and it's like, trying to achieve forever, even though the sun's going to expand and the earth's going to burn off, and
We're all gonna die.
seriously, like I kind of like I'm a amateur astronomy nut, right? And astrophysics, like it's all kind of irrelevant in the end, right?
Hmm.
Even Musk trying to get to Mars is not far enough. It's totally futile. It's a short-term insurance policy
Sure.
for yeah, until we can figure out a way to fold space. Maybe it's possible.
We'll see. Much to be determined.
Yeah.
I feel like I try to use social media very mindfully, where if I need something to just, I don't know, make me feel fulfilled or have some sort of distraction or decompress, my dad has started to draw me pictures. He'll mail me pictures and then I'll color them in. So I've been trying to lean on that
Those
more
are worth
instead of
saving.
like.
You should save all those. Make a Cumulus cloud. They're free. You can get a Cumulus cloud and just start a free
Oh, that
one.
would be fun. Yeah, I think I
You should
have
just
one here actually.
take
This
photos of
one's
them.
yet to be done, but he makes these like really trippy.
Oh my God. You literally have to photo. It's almost like the Scream by Munch.
I've been I've been trying to
Or
lean
Munch.
on.
Is it Munch? I think it's Munch. Anyway.
Been trying to lean on
But
stuff like that.
you should photograph all those and make a cloud of them and then see.
Make a whole collage. No, I definitely will. He would love that. Because I would just send him pictures. But again, it's like it gets lost in texts and stuff like that. So
But
no,
that's a
that's such a
beautiful
great idea.
tradition you guys have. I
Yeah.
don't know the last time I mailed a letter.
Which has been so fun. That's something that I haven't done
Yeah.
in so long, but since I live here, we just will like send each other silly stuff. He sent me like, I don't know, his cat's whisker, like stupid stuff that he just sends, but I feel like it brings back that magic of the present moment, and that's been very special. And I try to use social media more mindfully if I'm looking for inspiration. Like I have a purpose behind it. I'm using it almost like Google in a way, or Pinterest, just trying to get inspiration rather than that just being, I guess, my base of life. And it's definitely helped. I work best when I have regular adventure time to like go to a museum or see something cool, and being very mindful of how I spend my time and cutting back on stupid stuff like being on the phone to actually go to a museum has been kicking ass. It's really been great.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I 100% agree. I guess I'm in the throes of having a really young infant and
Hmm.
a small toddler, and in the winter in Canada, and it is such an isolating experience, and like getting to a museum or getting to a place that's physical is so fulfilling when you can do it. It's just so much. It's just so much work to do it.
Sure.
It's just it's just so much. But I I think that my daughter's reaction at the Art Gallery of Ontario when I took her, I guess a few months ago, oh, you could tell she just loved it because it was so physical.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but she is like they're just so exposed to screens. But it's fentanyl.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's literally it's so addictive. Um, and it's and you can tell with the baby these high contrast bright colors. It's got to say something about our humanity that we are drawn to these colors. It's almost I don't know if anybody's these screens because like we're so drawn to it's like moths to a flame.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like maybe it is the fire. It's like it's sort of like a moving bright thing, and it's like to a baby or to us like it's the new it's the mesmerizing quality of sitting beside a fire. You can just stare at it for hours. I think like a really
Yeah.
nice fireplace. You know, so God forbid, you know, you can't even build them anymore. They're banned in Toronto because of the environment. You know,
Oh,
like
wow.
it's so funny. It's so funny, like what we're doing to ourselves. The most primal things are no longer allowed. But I think like you could tell she got more out of that environment, that physical environment, that she does out of a screen. But the craving for a screen.
Mm.
She was checking my pockets the other day, asking if there was a phone in there. And I was like, can you imagine a 2-year-old girl asking you that?
I need a hit.
I felt I felt so struck by the immediate danger of what this is.
Mm.
But also I thought about it to us. I was like, you know, if I think that about her, my daughter, I mean, it's got to be. I got to think about myself. I got to think about
Yeah.
other people. Like this is real. I don't know. I feel like we have to have much more. There are conversations about this. I know there was the hearing with Zuckerberg around the suicide, and also with OpenAI, there was a a big thing in Canada recently, a huge big shooting in British Columbia where this person had been banned from OpenAI from ChatGPT in advance, and um, they didn't let the authorities know.
Mm.
Um, but imagine like to get banned from using ChatGPT. What on earth would you have to say? I mean, like
Yeah.
you'd have to say some horrible. You'd have to be asking some terrible things, and it's just like what but it's all about freedom, right? They're allowed to ask those things. It's like yeah, but I mean maybe if they're asking them, maybe there's a problem.
Sure.
Maybe it's like like you're asking things that concern us. You know, we really recommend you seek mental health. And unfortunately, unfortunately, we're going to curb your use on this, but we need to refer you to
Yeah.
mental health authorities or something like this. Like you shouldn't be asking these things, or you should be, but you should be speaking to a.
Sure.
You're allowed to think these things.
Yeah.
Like you're allowed to be disturbed. It's okay. You're disturbed. You're disturbed, but like
Mm.
we need to get you some help.
Yeah.
But we're not allowed to do that because it's privacy. Privacy at all costs. Well, privacy at all costs so that they use your software over and over and over again. It's just sort of like really like, is it about privacy or is it about making money?
Mm.
I mean, like I don't know. I think we're at an incredible inflection point in the trajectory of human beings. Gosh, will we even be that anymore?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very curious. I'm very curious to see how things unravel, especially as more or as AI develops further. Because it's so strange because there's such a dependency on it. There are people, my mom sends me videos all the time, like, oh my gosh, look at this. It's like, that's not real. That is not a
It's
real occurrence.
and it's like the opening salvos of this technology. It's not even like it's like this is like the equivalent of Napster. Like like they have just gotten started. Like these guys have designs on everything, and it's like, and the videos are really, some of them are impossible to tell the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm someone who's highly attuned to these sort of spatial aesthetic things, and it's just like, God, like
It's crazy. I have
it's
noticed
unfathomable.
it has been pushing some people away from technology because it's like, well, I don't even know it's real anymore, so screw it. I mean, obviously not fully, but I'm wondering
But
if
is that not
it
the
would.
definition of like a psychopath? Isn't that the definition of a psychotic break, when you don't know the
Yeah,
delineation between reality and illusion? Like, I mean, that's scary.
yeah. Especially when it gets into politics and stuff like that, and people, it's just, there's so much weird misinformation and stuff being thrown. It is such a disaster.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to keep the conversation positive because I feel like I'm trying to build an island of the possible and the positive.
Sure.
I know that sounds crazy, but um, and I think that also defines our work. You asked earlier, like, how does it work? Well, I think it's necessarily positive because it's like the glass is full. You just
Yes.
don't know what's in it. like, 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 I don't know. Yeah, like, I I really believe that there's, especially these last few trips I took, like that New York trip and the one to London, where I had these extraordinarily wonderful experiences with new people and places, that just the real things matter.
Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, just from what I've seen with AI, it's forcing people to start questioning things because for so long people just would take whatever as fact if they saw it. So I feel like it is forcing people to think for themselves. It is creating a little bit of distance, I believe, between the human and technology, and I'm hopeful that it continues in a way. I don't know. It's there's a lot of unknowns, but I am an optimist, and I feel that it is bringing up some very necessary questions and bringing attention to some very necessary things that I feel have been swept under the rug for a while.
Yeah, it's it's such an interesting time. I guess we do live in truly interesting times.
Yes.
It's a very different time.
Yeah.
Not that there aren't isn't always, not that it isn't always an interesting time. But this should be the last 20 years, 25 years since, you know, the the millennium scare, September 11th,
Mm.
and then now where we are now, generative AI, wars being fought by drones. I mean, like, whoa. like like holy, like we really live in an interesting, just mind melding time.
Absolutely.
I don't think it was like this in I just don't think it was like this in 1830. I think it was just different things happening,
Sure.
different
And in a
pace,
much
different.
slower pace. Yeah, exactly. Hmm.
This is just like maybe Turner's painting of the freight train coming from a distance has never been more relevant. You know that painting? I don't know what it's called, but I feel like that was all about the kind of rush of the Industrial Revolution,
Hmm.
and we didn't know what it was going to do to us and what it did to us. Well, it already did it, and then we don't even know what it's still doing to us.
Oh, goodness. Well, to close on an
So
interesting
begin the
note,
closing.
how do you view death?
Gosh, I'd be lying if I said I was scared of it. Sorry, if I said I wasn't scared of it. Um, but my reason thinking about it is if it doesn't happen in a surprise way, that when it does, our bodies are naturally and our minds are naturally designed to die.
Mm.
So there must be something that happens that changes the perspective.
Mm. Oh, I love that.
Um, I don't know, like, and I'm hoping that I don't know. I get more and more emotional about these conversations now that I have kids.
Hmm.
It's just like I just want them to be safe. It's such a tough place, and it's and I want them to be safe, and I want them to be loved, and I want their kids to be safe and loved, and I have a hard time believing that that isn't a universal desire of all people. I just can't imagine that that's not the case. We're just taught to erase that for some reason, and then we
Mm.
behave in these other ways. And so, you asked, what do I think about death? I think that the world is just saturated in this negation of life, and this idea of protecting each other has just completely disappeared.
Hmm.
I don't know. I just have a hard time believing that I'm the only person, that this isn't a totally universal feeling of trying to, make sure that baby grows up and is healthy.
Yeah. I also feel like it's sort of like day and night, where the opposition I feel like is important in order for us to value it. Um if we didn't have a fear of passing, we wouldn't value our time here as much, I don't believe. I mean, I don't know, because that's just not how we're designed, but I almost feel like it forces us to make the most of this time here and now.
You'd think,
Yeah.
right? I think it's so the absolute of it, the absolute, just the, what I think about it sometimes, because I'm also interested in astronomy and astrophysics,
Mm.
just that, just the physical reality that some of the atoms in our body, not all of them, but a lot of them were made in the center of a star.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, iron, iron is synthesized in the center of a star.
Mm-hmm.
It's pivotal to our blood. I mean, like, it's just the idea that you and I, parts of us, were made inside of a star. I mean, it's just like it kind of can bring tears to my eyes to think, just putting
Mm.
life in context on our planet and what we're doing. And I look at my daughter's eyes, and then her, that blue, like, that's from the center of a star. Like, it's
Mm.
so beautiful. It's so profound.
Yeah.
And I feel like if the whole world just looked up at the sky and had a perspective on chemistry and physics, we might treat each other a bit differently. But
Mm.
I don't know, maybe I'm just a nerd at heart.
No, I completely agree. Well, where can
I guess
people
I find that,
find? Oh yeah, go for it.
where can people find what?
Oh no, go for it. There's a little bit of a little bit of a lag. I was just gonna ask where people can find you. I was just gonna close. So if you have any final thoughts,
Oh, where
feel
people can
free.
find me. Oh, where can't you find me? I'm in all those bad places. Instagram, LinkedIn, Alexander Josephson, Partisans, Cumulus. I'm in all those platforms. Uh, I even own an Englishword.com, partisans.com, for partisans in our architecture and design work. Cumulus.world, like the cloud. We all want to go to heaven. Come to Cumulus. Um, so cumulus.world, that's Cumulus dot world. And then Cumulus is on Instagram. I'm on Instagram. Partisans on Instagram. Yeah, and all sorts of
Right.
articles. We've been fortunate to be written about, both on the architecture side, but also Cumulus. Cumulus was featured in Fast Company, Globe and Mail, a couple other places. So you can find us all over the place.
Cool. Well, I will put some links in the show notes. But thank you so much for your time. I thoroughly enjoyed chatting.
Thank you so much for joining. Such a pleasure. You may be seeing Alexander again very soon, so keep your eyes peeled. All of the links to everything that is him, Cumulus, Partisans, and all of the other things will be linked in the show notes as always. Thank you for joining us in our convo today. I am sending my love, and I will see you all next time. Thank you so much for listening to Diary of a Psychic Medium with me, Amber Amrine. To learn more about me, book a session, learn about my mentorship program, all that good stuff, you can visit channelwithamber.com. Follow me on Instagram at channelwithamber. Special thank you to Unicorn Heads for my theme song, A Mystical Experience. I'll see you next time.